Hi, and welcome to the F1 Time Portal, a Formula One history podcast started by two Formula One tragics. I'm your host, Rosa.
And I'm your other host, Luigi. And today we're taking you back to the 1958 season, part 2. So let's go.
Hi, how are you? We're back. We're back,
good.
Luigi.
Yeah, we got through the first season without any real tragedy. That's good.
No, but we only did 2 races. We did the intro.
Yeah.
The intro was huge. We did 2 races, yes. So we're up to race 3, the Dutch Grand Prix. So today, the date is May 26. So not long after Monaco. We've got 75 laps and 17 drivers, and the grid formation is a 3x2 by 3, I'm guessing. So there was a mad rush for the teams to get their cars ready in time for the Dutch Grand Prix because, as I said, it's only a week later.
Yeah, and it's funny that there's a 5-month gap between Argentina and Monaco, and they make the Dutch Grand Prix like 1 week later, like pressure, let's go.
Yeah. So straight away, the Vanwalls of Moss and Brooks were setting the pace. And so the Vanwalls claimed the first 3 positions on the grid, with Lewis Evans taking pole with 1 minute 37.1, followed by Moss and Brooks. In fact, the next 9 cars were separated by just 1.4 seconds. Berra was in the lead in the BRM. The first non-British car was Hawthorn in the Ferrari in 6th place. At race start, the Vanwalls led into the Tarzan hairpin, but due to jostling, this is the first time I hear about jostling, Brooks had his tail dented, and Shell in the BRM slipped through into 3rd place.
That's a really good result considering he started the race in 7th place.
Yes. So it was Moss in the lead, followed by his Vanwall teammate Lewis Evans, and now a hard-charging Shell.
Yeah, so Shell is trying to make up for his lackluster performance at Monaco the week prior, where I don't even know if we mentioned him, but it was noted by everyone else. Yeah, it was noted by everyone else that his absence, because he's normally up there. He's like top 5, 6 driver, always being involved, sometimes charging into the lead. So,
Yeah. Well, on lap 12, Shell did a great job in getting past Lewis Evans and taking 2nd place. However, by this time, Moss had already built up a very comfortable lead. Hawthorn, down in 5th, was really struggling with the handling of his Ferrari. He had Berra in the BRM really pushing him. Finally, on lap 15, Berra got past and started to close in on 4th, which was Salvadori in a Cooper. And so only 6 laps later, Berra not only caught and passed Salvadori, but was quickly leaving him behind.
Now, this is a big charge if ever I saw one, and as I've read because of this research. But I will say one thing. You have to recall that Hawthorn never has like a BRM passing him.
No,
so
that's true.
We didn't make a comment of it, but Berra also got past Hawthorn before he went and passed Salvadori, just saying.
Yes. Yeah, and Berra seems to be, doing very well. See what happens. By lap 30, this is a 75-lap race, remember, Moss was enjoying a 25-second lead and was lapping the field. So this is a very short track at 4.2 kilometres in length, so it's not a surprise with that he starts lapping the back markers. The remainder of the race was Moss maintaining complete control and the rest of the field spreading out. At one point, there was a fierce battle for 7th between Musso, Collins and Brabham, but even this fizzled out when Collins suddenly spun off with a seized gearbox. We're hearing a lot of seized gearboxes. Just to say very quickly.
Yeah, and don't forget he also retired in the first race, the first formal official retirement of Formula One in our books. That's right,
yes.
So he's really not liking this season.
Yeah, that Ferrari's not doing well, is it? I mean, it got its fuel right, but not getting much else right. The only excitement towards the end of the race was Shell attempting to get past Hawthorn. The Ferrari driver was not happy about this and made it very heavy work for Shell to get past.
Was he being lapped?
I think so. Yeah, I think he was. But as you said, Hawthorn didn't like being passed.
By BRM. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think he was being lapped. It's not specifically mentioned. It's clear that Hawthorn was well behind because he finished the race in 5th place, 1 lap behind, while Shell finished second, nearly 50 seconds behind Moss. So during this ego battle between Hawthorn and Shell even had to take to the grass at the hairpin to get him past Hawthorn, but eventually he got through.
Well, apparently Hawthorn waved him through, so what does that mean? Like, I don't think that was a happy wave.
No.
It was a you're a garagista wave.
Yes. Obviously,
so
there were no
blue flag.
Yeah.
There's no blue flags.
No track limits, nothing.
Yeah. Very different world. So, yeah.
So Moss wins by about half a year, with Shell in second, Berra in third in the 2 BRMs, and Salvadori in the Cooper in 4th place.
Okay. So the championship standings are Moss still leading the championship with 17 points, Musso second in the Ferrari on 12, Trintignant third with 8, Shell in 4th with 8, and Hawthorn in the Ferrari with 7 points. So he's behind a BRM in the championship. So that would be really, rubbing him the wrong way.
Yes.
And in the Constructors' Championship, we've got Cooper Climax still leading with 19 points, now followed closely by Ferrari with 14, Vanwall in 8, BRM with 8, and Maserati with 3.
Okay, we're up to race 4, and this is the Belgian Grand Prix. So it's the 15th of June, so a little bit of a break. We've got 24 laps, shortened from 36, and we've got 20 drivers and a grid formation of 3x2x3. So since the last Belgian Grand Prix in 1956, the track had undergone considerable improvement. Some corners were eased and the track was now 14.1 kilometres in length. So initially there was a reservation that a lap under 4 minutes would not be possible. However, after the teams and drivers settled in, the 4-minute barrier was well and truly smashed by Hawthorn, setting a time of 3 minutes 57.1 seconds, followed by Musso on 3 minutes 57.5 seconds and Moss on 3 minutes 57.6 seconds.
This is very tight racing and qualifying, and the Ferrari's really holding strong with first and second. And just saying, up to this point, this is race 4, other than the first Grand Prix in Argentina where it was the Italian teams pretty much were the only ones that turned up, the British teams have been dominating. So this is like a return to form of the Ferrari team, but this time while the British teams are there.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So race day got off to an unusual start, and I'll read the words of our researcher Mike Lang, or our book that we follow. The start of the race on Sunday afternoon was made a shambles by an inexplicable delay on the part of the timekeepers.
Shambles. So is Shambles going to compete with nonsense starts?
I think it will for sure. The consequence of this shambles of a start was that Collins's Ferrari was well and truly overheating. And now I have another quote to make from the book.
Another quote. Ready? We don't normally do back-to-back quotes, so this better be good.
It's going to be good. Hawthorn and Musso both made a nonsense of their starts, which in the circumstances was hardly surprising.
So we had a shambles start, which resulted in a double nonsense start. Yeah. And Hawthorn was even involved.
Yes.
That's original. Gold.
I know.
The original nonsense starter.
Yeah. So I'm liking Mike Lang's kind of attitude coming through here. I like it.
Yeah, it's a bit old school.
It is very old school. So to the actual racing itself, Moss was the one to lead the field over Eau Rouge. Though the lead was short-lived, however, as later on the opening lap, Moss made one of his very rare mistakes by missing a gear change and his revs went sky high. As a result, Brooks, Moss's teammate, took the lead. He was followed by Collins, Genebien, who qualified 8th in a Ferrari, Hawthorn, Berra, and the rest of the field.
And good pronunciation of Genebien. Well done.
Thank you. On the second lap, Collins pushed ahead of Brooks, and for the next 4 laps, the pair of them put on an amazing display of expert driving. They were rarely ever more than one car apart and continually changed positions. Unfortunately, by lap 5, Collins had to withdraw, likely a consequence of his overheating engine from the start. Berra also retired at this stage.
I wonder if they, in the official, the cause of retirement, they just write in brackets, nonsense for Collins.
Or shambles.
Yeah, nonsense, shambles / nonsense.
Yeah. So we now have Brooks leading, with Hawthorn a close second and Musso third. By lap 6, Musso suffered a burst tyre, which sent him sliding off the road and out of the race.
There's so much going on in this race. Shambles and nonsense starts, awesome duelling and lead changes, tyres bursting and retirements. So I'm kind of jealous of the spectators back then because they really were seeing some amazing racing taking place.
Yeah. I know. It's almost like Formula One has become too professional now, and we don't see this kind of stuff happening, do we? Yeah.
Yeah.
So with Hawthorn seeing Musso out, his spirits became dampened and Brooks started to extend his lead. By lap 14, Brooks was also 40 seconds ahead of Hawthorn. Then, when Hawthorn saw his teammate was okay from going off, his pace suddenly improved due to his renewed inspiration.
Isn't it nice that he felt sad? He thought his teammate was injured or hurt, So there's a nice connection there. If it was Fangio, though, we all know Fangio would not have slowed down in the first race, especially if it was an Argentinian teammate. That was his thing. Argentinian teammates do not count.
No. So while Hawthorn was closing the gap on Brooks, Brooks was well informed and he responded by speeding up sufficiently to keep the Ferrari out of harm's way until the last lap where we have the most excitement.
Yes. And isn't it impressive that Hawthorn was being kept well informed by Ferrari this time? No, faster. At the 10 laps to go.
Okay. I was hoping you'd figure that one out, Luigi, and make a point of that. But yes, that was very interesting. So coming out of La Source, Brooks Vanwall suddenly jammed in gear, leaving Brooks to crawl down to the line and receive the checkered flag. 20 seconds later, Hawthorn's engine went up in a cloud of smoke and steam. Then Lewis Evans appeared in third place with a broken wishbone. So it was left to Allison in fourth place to bring home the first healthy car.
This is amazing. I would love to have seen this last lap because you see all the drama happening, but it didn't actually change the results. So all the drivers managed to keep going and finish where they were meant to finish. That would have still been exciting to watch because they would have been nursing those cars, managing whatever disability those cars were carrying, So, pretty amazing. Would love to have seen it.
Yeah, so they were all damaged, as you said, but there were still gaps. So Brooks won by about 20 seconds and Lewis Evans about 30 seconds behind Hawthorn.
Interesting. So of special interest, De Philippis qualified in 19th place, nearly 34 seconds off Tony Brooks' pole position time and only ahead of a mechanically hindered Ken Kavanagh. So although she was lapped twice in the 24-lap race, she managed to finish, albeit in 10th and last place after 9 other cars failed to finish. So this would prove to be her only race finish, and if it was in our current era, which is 2024, she would have got a point.
Okay. So I might read out.
We don't have a championship. Yeah, do you know the championship rankings?
Yeah, I might just read them out for you, Louis. So
yes,
Sterling
please.
Moss is on 17, Hawthorn is on 14, Musso is on 12, Shell is on 10 and Trintignant is on 8. And in the constructors' title, Ferrari is now ahead on 20, Cooper Climax on 19, Vanwall on 16, BRM on 10 and the Lotus on 3.
Okay.
Getting close in the constructors.
Yeah.
Okay, we're up to the French Grand Prix, race 5. The date is July 6. We have 50 laps and 21 drivers and the grid formation is 3x2x3. So Ferrari were not at all happy with their handling at the Belgian Grand Prix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that? Is that because Shell was lapping in the BRM
Probably,
added salt to the wound as well?
Probably. So in the 3 weeks between the Belgian Grand Prix and the French, they modified their suspension significantly. So the Ferrari team arrived in France with renewed confidence. And when practice opened on Wednesday night...
Wow.
Yes. Sorry, did I forget to tell you that the first night Formula One race was in the 1950s?
Yeah.
Yeah. Still pretty cool. That it happened right. I wonder what they did for lights. I don't know. It would have been interesting to see.
Must have been their summertime or something, but
still,
it's a cool thing to have evening racing. It adds to the whole atmosphere. You know, that's why bands play at night time and stuff, right?
Yes, yeah. So Hawthorn went out and set a very competitive time of 2 minutes 23.9 seconds, which was 1.9 seconds faster than Fangio's 1956 record. That's huge. That is massive.
Yeah.
However, Hawthorn's new, albeit temporary nemesis, Shell, surprised everyone by going around in 2 minutes 23.1. Wow. The scene was set for a blistering second practice session on Thursday evening. The Thursday evening session was enhanced by the presence of Fangio driving a new Maserati. It was shorter and lighter, but down on power. The best Fangio could do was 8th.
What I don't understand about this is Maserati had pulled out, but how did he get this new one?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I know.
Maybe Privateer was doing adjustments to it, you know. Anyway.
Maybe. So to qualifying the second session, Hawthorn and his ego improved to 2 minutes 23.7, followed by his teammate Musso. Shell remained third.
And just a quick catch-up on De Philippis. She was prevented from competing. In a 2006 interview, she claimed that the race director dismissed her by telling her that the only helmet a woman should wear is the one at the hairdressers.
Oh my gosh.
She was really in a very, very sexist world, and she did well to even be there and to deal with that sort of ridiculousness. Yeah.
Wow, that's wow. Okay,
it's
moving
nuts.
on. Yeah, absolutely. The Vanwalls were down on power this race, with the leading Vanwall, Brooks, only getting 5th. So there was a supporting F2 race, which Berra won.
Yeah, so he does sort of win. Yeah.
Yes, he did win something. So, he was doing well coming into this race, but as the flag fell, Shell stormed into the lead, but Hawthorn and his ego went past on the main straight. I'm going to play up this issue that he has with the BRMs a little bit here. Shell then slipped further back on lap 2, being passed by Musso, Collins, Brooks, Fangio and Berra.
That sounds like half the field. Is that like a disaster or a nonsense or something like that?
Who knows? It was considered that the cars were so close together that the position at this stage was irrelevant. So much so that at one point there was an exciting scrap between Fangio, Berra, Shell and Moss, which became so intense that they passed the track 4 abreast at times and the crowd were literally brought to their feet.
This is awesome close racing, and considering how dangerous this was, they really had huge trust in one another not to stuff up, because the impact and the consequences would have been huge.
4 abreast. I mean, that you don't hardly see that. Yeah.
And these were not little cars.
No, they were huge. Exactly. Yeah. On lap 5, the Ferrari 1-2-3 sadly ended. Firstly, Collins had an air scoop detach and lodge itself behind his brake pedal. He slipped down the field. God, that sounds like a Three Stooges movie plot.
Yeah.
However, Musso, he was less fortunate. His Ferrari slid out of control and somersaulted over a ditch. Luigi Musso was thrown out and he sustained serious injuries, which proved to be fatal. Italy had lost its last frontline driver.
Yeah, this is really sad. And this is the beginning of the sad times.
Yes.
He was only 34 years old. He was my namesake, as we know.
Yes.
Apparently, according to his fiancée, he was actually deep in debt leading up to this French Grand Prix. and perhaps this was a driving force for him to push even harder in the race. We also got some extra information from Wikipedia. So Wikipedia can sometimes be a questionable source, but this seems to fit in quite nicely. I think it's a movie, The Secret Life of Enzo Ferrari. Bresci recalled that the antagonism between Musso and the two English drivers, Hawthorn and Collins, encouraged all three to take more risks. She said, the Englishmen had an agreement. Whichever of them won, they would share the winnings equally. If it was the two of them against Luigi, who was not part of the agreement. Strength comes in numbers, and they were united against him. This antagonism was actually favourable rather than damaging to Ferrari. The faster the drivers went, the more likely it was that a Ferrari would win. Bresci related that at the time of his death, Musso was in debt, and thus winning the French Grand Prix, traditionally the largest monetary prize of the season, was all important to him. One thing I do know from my many years of reading about Formula One and Enzo Ferrari is Enzo Ferrari would have absolutely nurtured this if he was aware of it, which I'm sure he was, because he liked to turn the drivers on each other because he felt it got the best out of each other because they pushed each other to win. So yeah, that's really sad.
It is sad. I like, if that is true, that is just nasty. I think the fact that, you know, the two British drivers sort of ganged up against Musso, that would have been really hard for him and really sad. Anyway, Musso died later that day, but the horrific nature of this accident did not stop the race.
Which is really sad too.
Yeah,
they just didn't stop them, did they?
No. So Hawthorn was still leading, now with Brooks in the Vanwall in second place. However, he soon retired, which meant that it was Fangio, Berra and Moss fighting for second place. For many laps, these three drivers battled ferociously.
And in those days, second place was virtually a win, considering the super high retirement rate. So being in second was worth fighting for.
Do you think Hawthorn retired because of his teammate, Musso?
He reacted in the last race, apparently. Even though he may have had this deal against him, it still didn't mean he was a heartless person. He still would have felt for the situation. Yeah. So, yeah, possibly.
Possibly.
He may have not known that because he doesn't. Remember, Musso doesn't pass away till later that day, I think.
No. Okay, so Fangio had to make a quick pit stop, so the battle was down to Berra and Moss.
Yeah, so don't forget, Berra had won the F2 race just before this race, so he's in hot form right now.
By lap 40, Berra and Moss battled aggressively, and the fact that Hawthorn was leading by over 30 seconds was pretty much overlooked. Then the fuel pump on the BRM failed, which meant Moss could finally relax.
Driving a 1950s F1 car with no seatbelt at full speed on thin tyres was relaxing.
Yes,
and we just found out one of his colleagues just had a horrific accident and passed away. So that's the relaxed bit.
The race plateaued at this point, and Hawthorn won by over 25 seconds, with Von Trips in the Ferrari third. It was then another 1.5 minutes before Fangio crossed the line in fourth place. So this race is also memorable for being Phil Hill's first F1 race in a Maserati. He is also someone that we'll be hearing more about in the future. He's not related to Graham or Damon. He's another Hill, I think. And he qualified 13th but retired. Oh,
don't say the next bit, Rosa. Don't say it. The research was done. You have to say it. You have to say it because you did the research.
I have to say it. I have to mention that this was also Troy Ruttman's first Formula One race. He won the 1952 Indy 500 and he finished 10th. So good on him. He's come over to the proper F1. Also, this is Fangio's last Formula One race.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot to be said about Fangio, and we're not going to cover him in any real detail because we've talked about him a lot up to this point, to be honest.
Yes,
but he won 24 races and 5 world championships and 4 in a row, and that record of 4 in a row would not be equaled until Michael Schumacher passed it in 2003 when he got 5 in a row. and that record lasted 46 years. So his career still stands as having the highest winning percentage ever, with 46.15% over 52 race starts. That's a phenomenal percentage, which I don't think will ever be beaten. Yeah.
Well, I hope not. His name deserves to be in the history books, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, Fangio is now gone. So who will step up? Who will step into his place?
Yeah.
So
and
really,
let's go
Luigi,
through the championship standings. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, if you go through like what we've been through now, we have really the two big number one names of the 50s of Fangio and Ascari. Gone, really.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So now we've got this is a new era, you're right.
This is a new era. And
yeah, and so we've got in this Drivers' Championship, we've got Moss still leading on 23 points in the Vanwall. We've got now Hawthorn in the Ferrari, equal points, 23. So this is becoming a bit of a Moss-Hawthorn championship battle here, because Musso's all the way down in third on 10, and unfortunately he's not getting any more points, and maybe he has accepted he's not going to win this year's championship. If there's a joke you can make that's inappropriate, but respectfully coming from a place of love, you know.
Yes, very much.
Shell is fourth with the BRM in 10 points, and Trintignant fifth in the Cooper Climax with 8 points. And the Constructors' Championship, we've got Ferrari leading with 28, Vanwall second on 22, Cooper Climax third on 19, BRM 10, and Maserati on 6 points. So I think we can keep going, Rosa. We were going to stop at this point, but what do you think?
We were. No, I think we can do. Yeah. I think we can keep going. Yeah, let's keep going with the British Grand Prix, race 6. It's the 19th of July. It is 75 laps and 21 drivers, and the grid formation is a 4x3x4. So with Ferrari re-establishing their strength at the French Grand Prix, Vanwall were keen to fight back in what is their race, really, their home race. And Vanwall, with a very motivated Moss, pushed hard, and on Thursday practice, Moss duly broke the track record with a time of 1 minute 39.4, and this would become the pole position time. However, it was a very interesting front row, as the first 4 positions were taken by 4 different marks. So it was Moss in the Vanwall, Shell in the BRM, Salvadori in the Cooper, and Hawthorn in the Ferrari. And they were all separated by less than 1 second.
Now, this is an interesting, I don't even know if this is a record or a stat worth stating, but I was looking at the whole grid and found that all the rows were different marks on each row. So just to go through it very quickly, the second row was Lotus, Ferrari, Vanwall. Third row was BRM, Vanwall, Cooper, Ferrari. Fourth row was Cooper, Maserati, Lotus. And the fifth row was Maserati, Cooper, Connaught, Maserati. So no repeats. So no driver was next to their teammate.
Wow. Very mixed up grid. I think that is some sort of record. And it would be a very interesting race with the very mixed up grid. Okay, correct. So we get to race day, which is a Saturday in this case, and Moss charged off the line ahead of Shell and Salvadori. Hawthorn made a sloppy start, but his Ferrari teammate Collins, who qualified 6th, then shot through from the second row and actually took over the lead during the first lap. So at the end of lap 1 was Collins leading Moss, Hawthorn, Shell, Brooks, and the rest of the field. Collins was really setting an aggressive pace. Even Moss couldn't keep up. By lap 5, Collins had a 4-second lead, and by lap 10, this lead had grown to 7 seconds. So Moss remained in second, with Hawthorn grimly holding on to third place. These first 3 left the rest of the grid behind. And of some minor interest is that on lap 18, Berra in the BRM retired due to having apparently hit a hair. It later turned out that it was a slow puncture caused by a bone piercing the tyre. Okay, that's a bit graphic. Sorry, listeners, for that.
Well, I'm of the view that whether it's hitting a hair that causes a retirement or the bone piercing the tyre that causes a slow puncture, it's still a hair causing the retirement. That's what I'm just calling it like what it is. And a hair from the 1950s was probably the size of a rhino or something.
Yes. Oh, okay. Moving on. At lap 26, unfortunately, Moss's engine blew in a big way and Hawthorn moved up to second place. A Ferrari demonstration was in full swing now. On lap 44...
At the British Grand Prix, just saying. Yeah.
I know. On lap 44, Hawthorn suddenly raced into the pits for more fuel, but he returned, still in second place, just ahead of Salvadori.
Well, if I recall, Hawthorn would have been quite emotional to have Salvadori and the BRM pass him on track. So that was a really important move for Hawthorn.
Yes.
Yeah,
Collins was in a league of his own and even lapped Shell, who was about in sixth place. This seemed to have triggered Shell, who immediately sped up and unlapped himself. So at this stage, Ferrari hung out the slow down signal to Collins.
Yeah.
Okay. At the same time, they put on the speed up signal to Von Trips, who had Brabham in his sights in sixth place. Von Trips tried, but his engine bearings were ruined and he was forced to retire. So the only excitement left in the race was Shell chasing down Brabham to take fifth place for himself, having been inspired by being lapped by Collins. And the remaining excitement sat with a battle for third between Salvadori in the Cooper and Lewis Evans in the Vanwall. Well, that would have sent the crowd wild too, hey?
Yeah,
try as he might, Lewis Evans could not find a way past and the two virtually ran nose to tail. On the final lap, the Cooper and Vanwall came around Woodgate almost side by side, but Salvadori held on to third by only 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, what an exciting finish for third place and two British drivers trying to... I know they're not both British drivers, but two British cars battling it out for pride of place would have been pretty exciting.
Yes, so the final result was Collins first, followed by Hawthorn, Salvadori. I think those three are all British drivers. Lewis Evans, Shell and Brabham.
Yeah. Okay, so the Drivers' Championship has changed now because with Hawthorn's success and Moss's lack of success, we have Hawthorn leading the championship with 30 points, Moss second with 23, Collins third with 14, Musso fourth, and then Shell. And in the Constructors' Championship, we have Ferrari on 36, Vanwall on 25, Cooper Climax 23, BRM and Maserati. So you can see Ferrari really stretching out
Ferrari's
in the championship
stretching, What do you think, Lloyd? Do one more? Shall we call it?
I think we should call it.
Okay, we'll call it. All right, so we'll leave it there, everyone, and we'll come back next week to continue with 1958.
Okay, bye, everyone.
We have a Patreon!
Yay, we're a professional podcast now. So it means a lot to us if you are able to support the F1 Time Portal podcast.
For a small monthly fee, you not only get ad-free podcast content, you will also receive special episodes that are exclusively uploaded for our Patreon financial supporters.
We promise at least 2 additional exclusive episodes each month aligned to the decade we are up to in the show.
And you will also be able to make suggestions about any special episodes you may want us to research and present. We can't promise that we can do all of them, but we will consider them.
So, if that sounds like an entertainment bargain to you, go and sign up at patreon.com/F1 Time Portal today.
If you're enjoying our podcast, please tell your friends and non-F1 friends alike.
Yeah, and don't forget to rate us 5 stars or whatever highest is available on the podcast platform that you use.
We have a range of social media handles for you to connect with fellow listeners, so look up F1 Time Portal on all the usual platforms.
Or visit us at www.f1timeportal.com or email us at f1timeportal@gmail.com.
We would like to give credit to our primary reference materials, a series of books called Grand Prix by Mike Lang.
We also use many other written and digital references, which are in our show notes.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.